Creating art is innovation in and of itself, but how does one stand out from other creatives? Pretoria-based visual artist Valeria Talian is one of a kind. Her playful exploration of different artistic mediums and materials has led her to the special place she's at today. Her niche mixed media approach strikes a brilliant balance, which comes together to create unique masterpieces.
Hi guys, welcome to my home. Come inside, I'm going to show you around. Okay, so this is our home and this is where I live with my family, and I also work from my home and I have my art studio here as well. Art started, I think, very early on for me in my life because I've always just naturally taken to looking at things and life a little bit differently and always looking for the beauty in everything. And after school, I didn't really pursue it very much. I had a little bit of a break and then I just slowly started getting into it. And when I had my kids, I started paying more attention to what's around me and exploring different materials and mediums. And it was a little bit tricky while they were small and we are homeschoolers, so there wasn't all that much time to take my career professionally. But as they got older, I was able to acquire more time and explore my mediums better and take my career to a professional level. Okay, this is the studio. This is where I do all my work. I'm a mixed media artist. I like to use as many different mediums as possible. I try to be innovative and try to come up with techniques that haven't necessarily been done before. I'm at the moment focusing quite a lot on using wax and glass and combining the two to create different types of depths and texture, and for people to look at it and be amazed by the product that it's come together. The combination between wax and the glass for me is a magical process because they contrast each other strongly. The glass is very sharp and hard and clear, whereas the wax is soft and warm and moldable, and it allows me the space to create depth and I can hide things behind it. Basically, I just experimented a lot with a lot of different mediums and played around until I found something that really resonated with me and that I thought spoke to the people and that intrigued the people. It was something that people hadn't seen before, and everybody's curious to see and feel almost the texture of how it feels, because the depth is great and it's something that hasn't been really done before. Basically, we start off with a clean canvas, which has to get primed because otherwise the surface will be too porous and it will get absorbed into the canvas. I go through a process of selecting images, which I take myself. I collect different types of images, which I then put together. So the process of selecting images is quite a long process. I take all the photographs myself and I want to have a selection of images which can be familiar to people, like for example a door handle. We all know what it is, we all use it, and it creates a safe space for the viewer. But then there, for example, might be an image of a God, which may represent something completely different for me than it represents to somebody else, or some pictures of nature. It must be able to transport you to a certain place or a time. And for everybody, it's different. We are all unique individuals. There must be a selection of a thought process. So when you're skipping between looking at different images, you are able to transport yourself to a different time, space, or reality. All right, when the priming process is complete and I have placed all my images down and I'm happy with where I want them to be at, they get glued down, and then once it's dry, the application of wax begins. This happens in quite a few layers, and it's a very time-consuming process because as the layers get applied, the surface isn't even, so it has to get fused with a heat gun, then it has to harden, and the process is very repetitive. I have removed all the excess wax that I do not want on this piece, and I have begun putting in the actual hand-drawn or etched images into the wax. For example, here I've got an image of a child that was playing with an umbrella, but the umbrella had been cut off, so I just drew it in. I have some images of eyes and I wanted more of them and I wanted to be more prominent, so I've etched them in, filled them with pigment, and I've already fused all the pigment into the wax, and this art is now ready for its final application of wax. Then I use a heat gun to fuse it so that it actually melts into the wax and stays in there permanently, so it cannot be wiped away. Depending on the depth of the wax, I can choose to hide some of the images or just to make some of them a little bit more hazy and more opaque. Then the whole artwork gets framed in a selected wood, and before everything is complete, the piece gets cast in resin to give it an additional layer of depth and also to make it long-lasting and hard. It must make sense in my mind, but it must also be free enough for somebody to come around and have their own stream of consciousness. It's basically my visual journal put down on canvas, and then it's out there for anybody to interpret whichever way they wish to interpret it.
It's a long road to Cape Town, where Valeria's work is being displayed at the renowned Art at Africa Gallery in the waterfront. Here, her work rubs shoulders with some of South Africa's top creative talent.
Here it is, after all the hours and all the hard work. It feels really fantastic to see it here amongst all these other great artworks in this beautiful location. Because, I mean, I start off at home in my own little studio, and to actually see it here in real life, it's awesome. These pieces are kind of the similar idea, except that it is the raw wax that is exposed and not cast in resin, and it also has a certain level of depth and texture, which is slightly different to the resin pieces.
Now, Valeria's work is actually a very good example of storytelling. So she actually puts a story together in a visual form. And the remarkable thing compared to, for instance, paintings, is that she actually works more or less in a 3D, be it in a flat work, but she still manages to create that 3D element. And in doing so, she kind of like creates a certain dream world. And that type of dream world consists of elements that you kind of like connect all together when you wake up. And that's actually what I see in her work, which is phenomenal. She creates these dream worlds that everybody relates to somehow, and she's an absolutely fantastic storyteller.
My ultimate vision for the future with my art would be that it goes to good homes and it brings people joy and happiness, and I just want to continue doing that and bringing good vibes.